We are on the cusp of a major social change. Do you feel it? Even if you don't, make no mistake, change is coming, and it is going to be unforgettable. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Hart, and here on Prime Spark, where we work with and on behalf of women over 55, I want to help you find that spark that will ignite your way forward, reflect your gifts to the world, and illuminate your path through this next stage of life. Through these podcast conversations, I hope to inspire you to see how you can make a significant contribution to some of the gnarly problems that are facing us right now. Join me, and together let's discover our Prime Spark. Hi, and welcome to Prime Spark. I'm Sarah Hart, and I'm so happy you're here with us. Prime Spark is designed for women over 50 or close, with a goal to help us all live our happiest, most fulfilling, and productive lives now and in the future. The mission of Prime Spark is to change the way our society sees and treats older women. That's a big mission, which only means we all need to be involved and we need to get going now. And today I have the pleasure of talking with Teri Brown, a woman whose work I greatly admire. Teri M. Brown was born in Athens, Greece, as an Air Force brat. She came into this world with an imagination full of stories to tell. She now calls the North Carolina coast home, and the peaceful nature of the sea has been a great source of inspiration for her creativity. Not letting 2020 get her the best of her, Teri chose to go on an adventure that changed her outlook on life. She and her husband, Bruce, rode a tandem bicycle across the United States from Astoria, Oregon to Washington, D.C., successfully raising money for Toys for Tots. She learned she is stronger than she realized and capable of anything she sets her mind to. Teri is a wife, mother, grandmother, and author who loves word games, reading, bumming on the beach, taking photos, singing in the shower, hunting for bargains, ballroom dancing, playing bridge, and mentoring others. Welcome, Teri. I'm so happy you're here with us today.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm excited to be here with you.
So, just in getting started, let me ask you, do you experience getting older? And if you do, what is that experience? And if you don't, why is it that you think that you don't?
I think that I do experience getting older, but it's not a significant thing for me. I know it's happening. I mostly notice that it's happening when I look in the mirror and see that I'm not 20 anymore and notice a new wrinkle or an age spot or something. And I also notice it when I go to do something in an athletic endeavor and recognize that I'm not quite as agile as I used to be. I go at it with full force and I'm ready to tackle it. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I can't quite get my leg over that anymore or whatever. Those things I notice, but mentally, I have a son, he just turned 36. I have four children, but my son, my oldest, just turned 36. And I asked him how that could be because I'm 34. So in my head, I don't feel like I've really aged. And then I'm always shocked when I recognize that I really have aged.
I think that that is true for so many women. I have interviewed so many women for my podcast, and before that, I wrote an online radio show. And I bet 95% of them say something similar to what you said.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, my body, I can't quite do what I used to do, and I'm
Right.
a little
Right.
tighter and that. But other than that, I'm fine. I feel more free and more me and more alive than I ever have.
Yeah, my mom is 82 years old and still alive and doing doing life, living on her own, driving a vehicle. And I asked her the other day, how old do you feel in your head? And she told me, oh, I don't know, what, 36? And I started to laugh because it's like the older that she and I get, the closer in age we become in our heads.
I love it. That's wonderful. Yes, that's good. That's really interesting. Your son being 36. I don't have children, but I've got a lot of nieces and nephews. And as they get older, so one is, I think, going on 60. I remember the day she was born. That almost makes me feel older than my getting older, you know?
Yes, yes. Watching young people, especially, um, I've moved to the beach and I left behind a community that I knew. And in my mind, these people have stayed the same age, particularly children and teenagers. And then all of a sudden, get a email or a Facebook post will pop up that so and so's getting married or so and so just had a baby. And I'm like, whoa, how can that be? They were just like barely out of diapers and now they're what? They're getting married. And so there is that also kind of makes you realize that time has gone on. But my mind doesn't seem to accept that time has moved as fast as it has moved.
No, I understand that completely. So you have written several books,
Yes.
and we'll talk about later. But first, I want to hear about your latest book, 10 Little Rules for a Double-Butted Adventure. Tell us about this book and how the adventure came about and how the adventure went.
All right. So 10 Little Rules for Double Butted Adventure it's kind of like an inspirational memoir with some guided journaling. And it came about from lessons that I learned while on this huge adventure with my husband. That adventure came about, we will have to like travel back in time. I had lived for 14 years in an emotionally abusive relationship. And when I finally got out of that, I had no intention of ever marrying again. I also felt like my life was kind of over. I was 55. I thought, I guess I was more like 53. I felt like I was done. I couldn't see that there was anything for me. I knew that I would have grandkids and I didn't think that I was, just going to sit on a porch and do nothing else, but I couldn't imagine that there was anything really left for me. Well, shortly after I got out of that relationship, my son's friend started walking on the Appalachian Trail. And I don't know why it sparked something in me. And I read his blogs as they would come out like a drowning woman. Like I'm reading everything there is and I'm thinking, I want to do something big and bold like this. I want people to see that maybe there's something still inside of me. Well, little did I know, no one else thought it. It was me that thought that my life was over. I then meet Bruce, and he tells me that he's always wanted to ride across the United States on a bicycle. And I thought, oh, that sounds like an adventure. And it was way outside of my comfort zone because at that point, I had not been on a bicycle in 40 years. So this was a huge, huge, huge thing. And so I said, is this something you're going to talk about forever or are you going to actually do it? He said, no, I want to do it. And I said, count me in. And this was before we were married and I never intended to marry him, but I thought, well, I can go on an adventure with him. He seems like a nice enough person and we'll do this thing. Well, we ended up getting married and then we ended up going on this trip, had it planned for the summer of 2020, which was COVID summer. We almost thought we couldn't go. We actually kind of stepped back and thought, well, we're not going to be able to go. And then things started opening up a little bit, and we said, we're going to just try it. So we started in Astoria, Oregon. We rode 3,102 miles all the way across the United States, ended up in BC. We stopped at the Marine Corps Memorial because my husband is a 25-year veteran. And we were raising money for Toys for Tots, which is a Marine Corps charity. So we went ahead and thought that would be a good place to stop. And as we were coming up on that monument, he says, look, Teri, there's the flag. You can see the flag from here. Well, I started to laugh and cry and laugh and cry. I was just a big mess. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can do anything I set my mind to. It's not a matter of of can I do it, but what do I want to do? And so I asked myself, what is it that you want to do? And I thought, I want to be an author. What I've wanted for so long, and I've been so afraid. And 14 months later, my first book came out. So,
I love that story, Terry. I love it. I have done 4 of the California AIDS rides. Nothing like riding across the United States, but it's from San Francisco to Los Angeles, so it's
that's a big ride. Yeah,
540 some miles.
right.
So it's a big ride, but it's not 3,000. But I know that feeling because each of those times when I got home, I felt indomitable.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought I can do anything I want to do.
Yeah. And for me, I had been in this emotionally abusive relationship for 14 years. And despite getting out of it, you don't just immediately become whole and healthy, you know? And so I was still a quivering mass of craziness. Like I was not emotionally healthy at this point. But by the time I finished my ride, I was.
Oh,
Because I was able to put all of that stuff in perspective. What do you mean I'm not good enough? Look at me. What do you mean I'm not strong enough? Watch me. Like by the time it was over, I thought, gosh, all of that I had been told for all of those years that I knew deep inside wasn't true, but you hear it so much that you don't know what to do with all that anymore. And I found a place to put it. It's put away in a box. It very rarely pops out now. And when it does, I recognize what it is and quickly take care of it and get rid of it. And this ride changed my life. It changed the way I thought about myself. It changed the way I thought about my future. What will my future hold? And I now recognize my future will hold absolutely anything that I want to put in it.
that all could be so helpful to other women. Have you written anything about that? About how doing something like that can change your life after that experience?
Well, in my 10 little rules, I do kind of bring that up a lot, but I do a lot of public speaking as well. And I love talking with women's groups and talking to them about this idea of, if you find yourself in a bad situation, how do you move beyond that? You get out of it, but you haven't really moved beyond it. And then how do you do that? But really, this book talks about that, but it also just talks about how to live more adventurously. We all kind of put ourselves in a box and we say, well, this is who I am and this is what I can do. But what if you stepped outside of that box, even just a little teeny tiny bit? Like, what would that look like? And what kinds of things would you need to be able to tell yourself to be able to step outside of that box a little bit? And that's what these rules kind of are. And I tell people they're not hard and fast rules. They're not like you have to do these 10 things. And I even give guided journaling questions at the end of each chapter so that you can decide for yourself what your rule is. Because these are my rules. These
Right.
are the things I learned. They might not be perfect for you, and that's great. Sarah, if you need 9 rules or 47 rules, then this book will help you find what those are for you. So,
Oh, that's so good, Terry. So if somebody said to you, I want to do that, what advice would you give them?
so I had my husband with me who was a cyclist. I would have had to do a lot more work to do this completely on my own because I didn't know anything about fixing a bicycle. I didn't know anything about, there were a lot of things, but I would recommend um either find a group that wants to do it together because I think that would be really beneficial, or really start learning about, like bicycle maintenance, those kinds of things. Look up adventure cycling. They're a group that has put together maps of the entire United States and they show you the best places to ride your bike. And along those maps, then you can find places to stay and eat and etc. So that's a good resource to have. And then you're going to have to practice. Like, don't say to yourself, I think I'm going to go right across the United States. It took my husband and I 15 months of practicing, doing practice rides, finding the right gear, what felt good for me, finding the right saddle and what felt good for me. Because I could tell you what worked for me, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Everything is so different, like what you need and how far you think you can go. And then I think the final thing that I would tell people is plan, 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 and be ready to change that plan at a moment's notice. Because that's exactly what happens. You get out there on that ride and you have this plan in mind, and the day is very hot or very windy or very rainy, or you didn't get enough sleep the night before and you don't get to go as far. What are you going to do? How are you going to pivot? Or you've had such a fantastic day that you go twice as far as you thought you were going to go. Where are you going to land? How are you going to pivot? It's all of those things. It's being able to have a plan, but understand that that plan is more like a skeleton that you kind of hang things on, and then you have to move it around because the adventure has kind of taken over and gotten in the way. So,
I love that. So most of my listeners, not maybe not most, but many, many of my listeners will be over 50. So how old
mhm.
were you when you did this ride?
I would have been 56 when I went on the ride. So yeah, 56. And I don't think the age really had a lot to do with it. My husband's 12 years older than I am, and he went on the ride. Um, I think it has more to do with, do you want it? I tell people all the time, people used to say to me, there's no way I could do that. And I said, you could if you wanted it. But I can tell you, if you don't want it, you will come up with anything to keep you from moving forward.
Right.
Right? I tell people all the time, I said, if you really don't want it, something as simple as the sun came up this morning can keep you from going forward. And so you really have to want to do it.
You have to want to do it. And when you do something like that, you said this, but I think you really have to prepare for it.
You do. And then you also have to understand that no matter how much you prepare, you're not really prepared.
Right.
Like on day one, my thought was, oh my gosh, we've bitten off more than we can chew. I cannot believe this. I live on the coast of North Carolina, which is very flat. And the first day, we're going over a mountain range in Oregon. Well, that's very different than, and it's not that we never practiced on hills, but not very often. We live on the coast. And so in order to do big practices like that, we would have to take the bike and go somewhere several hundred miles away. And so we did it a couple of times, but never to the extent like going over mountains in Oregon. And so it was kind of like you plan, and that's my idea of what the adventure really is. It's something beyond what you can comprehend, because if you could really comprehend it, you'd talk yourself out of it.
Yes, it's one of those. I'm so glad I didn't know how this was going to be because I never would
Exactly.
have done it. And I'm so glad I did it.
I'm so glad I did it. Absolutely.
So tell us, what do you like best about being an author and what do you like least? Because you've written several books.
I think what I love best is interacting with other people who are either readers or authors. So I love going to like a book club and chatting with people who've read one of my books. Or I love getting together with a big group of authors and chatting about different ways that we can get our books out there to readers or things. I'm a very, unlike a lot of authors who tend to be very introspective and quiet and loners, I am very much love to be around people. And so the hardest part for me is that writing is a very solitary event. So I have to constantly look for other things in my life that can make up for the fact that I might spend several hours sitting all by myself just in my head. But so I love to do things like get on podcasts and go and meet and greet people and become part of groups and do those kinds of things. So for me, it's the interaction with other people. And then the hardest part is that really writing is not an interactive kind of event. And so I've had to learn how to find interaction in other ways.
I have written a couple of books, and I found that the best thing for me was to go like to a coffee shop,
Yeah.
sit and write
Yeah.
because I didn't interact with the people. Well, every once in a while you would say something to somebody, but generally it wasn't really interactive, but they were there.
You weren't alone.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I love going to like a writers retreat where there are several authors and we're all doing the same thing. We're all writing and we may not be together while we're writing, but you tend to meet up at meal times and other things and you can chat about how things are going and
Right.
those kinds of events are really good for me as well.
Right. So talk to us about some of your other books.
Right. So I've written uh which 10 Little Rules for Double-Butted Adventure, which was my inspirational memoir, but I also wrote three historical fiction novels, and I've written a children's picture book. So I'm why I don't like to be stuck in a box. I tell people all the time that when someone will say, "Well, what kind of author are you?" It's like, the kind that writes. But anyway, so I have three historical fiction novels. One of them is Sunflowers Beneath the Snow. It is about three generations of Ukrainian women. It starts in the 1970s when Ukraine is still part of the Soviet Union, and it goes through to 2014 when Russia invaded Ukraine the first time, or not the first time, but the most recent time before most recently. And what's crazy about this story is that I have a Ukrainian friend who in 2016 told me a family story that was so incredible that I thought, oh my gosh, that needs to be like a book or a movie. But at that point, I was still in my abusive relationship and had no thoughts that I would be able to write this story. Um, and then I did. I ended up in 2018 writing it, but being afraid to show it to anyone. And it wasn't until I went on the trip that I pulled that out and I started finding like, how am I going to get this book out? So I tell everyone that I wrote 82,000 words of fiction to tell 3 pages of truth. The next one is An Enemy Like Me. It is a World War II story, but it is a little different. The main character is a first generation German American. His parents were from Germany. When he goes to fight in World War II, he believes he'll fight the Japanese, and he ends up in Germany. And he realizes he's more like the enemy than he is different from the enemy. So we see it from his point of view, but also his wife's and his 4-year-old son who's left behind, both as a child and then again as an adult looking back. And then my latest novel was Daughters of Green Mountain Gap. And it is a story about three generations of women who are healers. The first one is a granny woman. And so that is someone who does like roots and herbs, a little bit of mountain magic. They live in the Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina. She has a daughter, Carrie Ann. Carrie Ann thinks that the way her mother does medicine is crazy. So she goes and becomes a nurse, an actual medical nurse, and tries to bring modern medicine back to her community. And then the youngest generation looks at both of them and sees value in both and also understands that neither one of them have it 100% because both of them lose patience. And so she's trying to decide, she feels like she's also called to be a healer, but she's trying to decide like, how do I how do I do this? How is this going to look for me? So that's kind of what that one's about.
Oh, I just love it. Makes me want to read just every single one of those. And your children's picture book, what is that?
Yeah, so it's called Little Lola and Her Big Dream. This actually came to me while riding across the United States on the tandem bicycle. And I wrote it because my granddaughter, who's 6, asked me, Gigi, when are you going to write a book for me? And I said, now. I'll get right on that. So little Lola is a little train engine, and she doesn't know what she wants to be when she grows up, but she thinks that she wants to be an astronaut train. And all of her friends start to laugh at her and tell her that there's no such thing. And so she goes and visits older trains and asks them what they did. And they talk about the different things they did in like freight trains and passenger trains. And in the end, though, she decides that she's going to keep her dream to be an astronaut engine. And what's really cool is that right after I wrote the book, I saw an article that came out that NASA and Northrop Grumman plan to put a train on the moon
Oh, I
to move
love it, Teri.
supplies from one side to the other when they want to put a space station on the moon. And so my author note tells the children to keep on dreaming. And what I say is now she can be a space train like the picture she drew, and just like Lola, you can have big dreams too. So that's kind of my author note. And I love the fact that it really ties into my 10 little rules for a double butted adventure because one of my rules is to keep dreaming. And the fact that we can have that rule and tell that to a child, but we can also tell that to ourselves. And it has made me wonder if maybe I shouldn't look at these other 10 rules and see if I can't pick a children's book for each of these, because these are the kinds of things, these rules that I came up with are the kinds of things that everybody needs. Dream big, understand that success isn't a straight line. It's not going to be as easy as just point A to point B. And those are the kinds of things that you can teach children too.
That is wonderful. When you say that, two things occur to me. One is I hope you should write to NASA and ask them if they would name the engine on the moon Lola.
Wouldn't that be cool?
And they just might.
They just might. Well, I'll reach out to them.
If
I've
you
never even thought
send
about
them a
that.
copy of that book and say,
Right.
please, yeah. And the second thing, I had two favorite books when I was a kid, and my mother, I'm surprised, didn't just faint away with the number of times she had to read me each of these. But one of them was The Little Engine That Could.
Yes, that was one of my favorites too.
I
Yeah.
love that book, and so mommy read it, and she was very. I don't remember ever going, "Oh, Sarah." I mean, as I recall, she'd pick it up and read it to me again. So
Right,
that's what
right. I think I can. I think I can. I
I think
think
I
I
can.
can.
I thought I could. I thought I could. I thought I could.
Yep. I love that story.
Oh, Terry. So what's next? What's next?
So I don't know if you're aware, my husband was diagnosed with glioblastoma in June of 22, which is an incurable brain cancer, and he passed away in January. So I am really kind of struggling with that question as to what's next, because I thought that I had found my person and that we were going to grow old together, and now he's passed. And so I'm having to figure out, what does my future look like? What is that going to include? Unlike when I got out of the bad relationship and felt like my life was over, I do not feel that now. I know there's more. I'm just trying to figure out what feels comfortable and what feels right. And in this grieving process, nothing feels comfortable or right yet. And so I'm still kind of looking. I do have a book that I was writing, and it is a humorous look at a woman going through menopause. And with that humor, though, I want to cast the light on the idea that a lot of times doctors um, don't do their best by women. You go in with a complaint, and they say things like, well, I'm told. I don't know how other people are told, but I can tell you that all of my problems, according to my doctor, are because I'm old, I'm fat, or I'm stressed. And then they kind of pat you on the head and want to give you an antidepressant. And I want to this is going to be a funny book, but I do want to pull that in to be able to talk about the fact that when women have issues, they're often just kind of ignored, or you're just told that's normal, when there's really nothing normal about the way you hurt when you get up in the morning and can't move your hips around, and you go to the hip doctor who says your hips are fine. There is a problem. So why are we just being patted on the head? So that's next. The problem is that it's very fun, tongue in cheek, kind of funny, humorous, and I'm not feeling overly humorous at the moment. So I've kind of put it on the side. I've written a couple of short stories that are going in anthologies. And so I have a couple of things out there, but we'll see what's going on. I haven't quite settled on what I'm working on next.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear about Bruce.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, and I'm
Yeah.
very sorry about that. And I mean, I don't, how many times does somebody have to tell you this? Grief takes as long as it takes.
It does. It does. Yeah.
And um and
My
and
therapist
you
told me
can't
that no,
plan.
no, you can't. No. My therapist told me I'm normal, and I started to laugh and said, "Well, that will be the first time in my adult life, but that's good to know."
Well, I don't think you want to hear suggestions, but I have two suggestions
Well,
because
no, let's hear them. Yeah.
um, check in with Adventure Travel.
Okay.
And two, I would love it if you would look at the rest um, of your 10 rules and write children's books,
Mm.
because I think we have built such a difficult world for children to grow up in. I think anything you can do to help them feel strong and good about themselves
Yeah.
is a huge gift.
Well, what's interesting is when I wrote the book, I didn't even recognize the connection until I had written it and it was published. And all of a sudden, I'm writing in the front of the book because someone wanted me to sign it. And I just wrote Dream Big, signed my name, and then it hit me. Oh my gosh, that's my rule number 10, which is, continue to dream. And I thought, oh my gosh. And then that thought came to me of, I wonder if I could write 9 other books that kind of went along with this. I've even talked with my publisher about the idea. So I do think that's something that's coming down the pike. It will take a little bit of time. Children's books, people don't think they take as long, but they do because you've got all of the illustrations, and that takes a long time to get all of that coordinated with the words that you've written. So
My last book was a children's picture book, and
yeah.
it it was not easy.
No, it's not easy.
I love the process. I love the book, but writing a children's book is not a slam dunk like
No,
people.
it's no, you don't just sit down one afternoon and pop out a book and it's done. There's a lot of work that goes into it.
There's a lot of work that goes into it.
Yeah.
So, do you experience that I hate those messages we get in doctors' offices that everything
Yeah.
is chalked up to a year old. And I hear that from women all the time. So that the book about having a sort of a humorous menopause book and
Right.
how women are treated would be a gift to the women of the world. Um, do you experience that at all in your writing or trying to get things published or when you're out talking about your books?
I haven't noticed it with the writing. In fact, what I am noticing is a large number of women who choose to begin writing once they've raised their children or finished their career, or in fact, not just women, but men as well. There are a lot of retirees who decide, hey, I have a lot of life experiences and I have a lot of cool things in my head, and I want to sit down and write, and I now have the time. So I think maybe being an author has maybe insulated me a little bit from that because I have other friends. I have one friend who the company that they were in was downsized. She was 61 and she's never been able to find another job because no one wants to hire a 61-year-old woman. And then I have other friends who chose to be stay-at-home moms and then tried to get back into, so they're now in their mid 40s or early 50s and want to get back into the job market and find it very difficult. So there is a lot of that out there. I think I've just been blessed that what I chose to do, being an author, seems to be almost geared more toward people who've chosen to do it later in life.
Excellent. Yes, with that group of women who may have been in the workforce, chose to be stay-at-home mothers, and then want to get back in that's I've talked to one of the things I help women with is transitions. And so I've talked to a number of those women. And one of the saddest things for me in talking to them is they don't feel like they have any skills at this point.
Right.
And
Right.
I think you have managed a home. You have managed how many calendars? You have been on countless committees and boards. You've taken care of all the social events that go on in your family. You've taken care of all of the extended family stuff. You don't have any skills?
Right. And I think what it is that our society says things like, do you work or are you just a stay-at-home mom? And that is the way it's looked at is, are you just?
Are you
Do
just?
you work or? And it's like, how about I do work at home as a stay-at-home mom because you are working. And so it's helping those women be able to look at those skills that they've done for those 20 years or however long they've been doing it and translate them into a resume that says, here's my skill set. But the reason women believe they don't have skills is because they're told they're just a mom. You're just a mom.
I've thought for a long time that our society gives us a double barrel message about having children.
Yeah.
On the one hand, if you're a woman and you don't have children, there's something wrong with you.
There's something wrong with you,
On
right?
the other hand, if you have children, then you're not serious about your work.
Right. Right. It's really hard to you can't win. There isn't a real way to
Right.
win in this. But I think that I think starting to see some strides in this. The younger women who are coming up seem to be a little less willing to put up with it. They're a little more demanding in saying that I am serious about my work and I am serious about my family. And
Right.
I can be serious about both, you
I
know.
I have great hopes for the younger generation to make
Yeah.
all kinds of changes that need to be changed, and that's one of them. And along with, I think that big bubble of baby boomers coming along are not going to be satisfied with being treated old.
Right.
Um, excuse me,
Right.
it's just not going to happen. So I think that, I mean, my whole thing is gendered ageism, and I think there are changes happening with that too. It's very gradual, very slight, needs a lot more change, but I do think it will happen.
I think so too. And I think it's just a matter of time and people opening their mouth and saying, I'm not going to put up with it anymore.
Right.
I remember in my mind as a child, I'm 61. And in my mind as a child, 60 was old.
Oh, very old.
I mean, it was very old. Those were ancient people. And I think now, gosh, I'm not anywhere close to old. And my mother, who's 82, she's not old. I watch her. She goes on cruises and she goes to friends and she plays bridge and she's off doing this and she's off doing that. She's not old. And so I've come to think of age isn't really, it's more of a mental state than it is an actual physical thing. And so can you be old? Well, sure, I think you can be old at 30 if you act old, and by acting old, I mean feeling like life like you're done, like you're finished, like there isn't anything else for you, like you can't. All of those things can make you feel very old, but I don't think that it's an actual age thing. I think it has way more to do with what's inside your head, and I don't intend to ever get old in my head. I'm always going to stay in my 30s in my head.
Right.
And I told someone not too long ago that I want to be that woman that, I'm at death's door, but I come flying at it with my hair on fire, screaming, what are we going to do next? Because I just don't want to sit around in a rocking chair and knit. It's just not anything that I want to do.
Yep, I
Yeah.
100% agree with you. Oh, Teri, this has been so good. So I could imagine people are going to want to know more about you and your life and your books. How can they do that if they
The,
want to?
yeah, the easiest thing would be to go to my website, which is my name, Teri M. Brown, and that's Teri with one R, TERI Brown.com. There you can see all my social media. So if you're a social media person, wherever you are, I am. You can sign up for my newsletter. You can see my podcast where I talk with other authors about books they've written. So if you're an avid reader and you're looking for your next great read, it's a good podcast to listen to. And then I sell all my books there as well. And I even have just a contact page where if you just wanted to reach out to me and ask me a quick question, and I always try to get back with people who reach out to me.
Wonderful. Thank you. So thank you, Teri, for being a guest today. I've really enjoyed it. And that's our time. So please join us again. You can find our Prime Spark podcast on every popular outlet. Find out more about Prime Spark at primesparkwomen.com. Again, thank you so much to my guest, Teri Brown. And don't forget, you can find her at terimombrown.com. I'm going to spell that TERIM, as in many, Mary, Brown, BROWN.com. terimombrown.com. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you
Take
so much for
care.
having me.
Oh, thank you, Teri. Spread tolerance and love as you go about your life today and ongoingly. Bye bye. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to stay updated, You can head over to my website, primesparkwomen.com, and get my free Spark Guide, 7 questions to ignite your spark, to help you discover your own spark. See you in the next episode.